You are live.
All right, thank you, Steve. And welcome to everyone joining our board meeting this evening. And we'll open with the roll call, Mike.
Mr. Edward.
Here.
Mrs. Grant.
Here.
Mr. Palomo.
Here.
Dr. Smith.
Here.
Mrs. Smith.
Here. Very good. Are there any additions or changes to the agenda?
Madam President, I just want to verify with the rest of the board, did all the board of directors get the updated agenda? We did make some changes to the agenda that was sent out over the weekend. Those changes include comparing the agenda that was sent out over the weekend. Item B, board contract removed. We don't have that contract yet. You'll probably see that at the next board meeting. And then under item D, there were some resignations listed, and Carrie Vela, the resignation was removed because she's employed through Margaretta. It's a shared services partnership with Margaretta. Our board need not take any action. And then we did add a couple other new items on there. There's some additional policies that need to be reviewed and approved as presented, and you should have gotten those in the email. And a recommendation to approve a 12-month internet contract with NOECA, and those are the changes that we did, and you should have that correct agenda in your email.
Very good. Is there a motion to approve the changes to the agenda as presented?
So moved.
All right, and that was Kent?
Yeah.
And a second, please.
I'll second.
Okay, Israel second. We'll have the roll, please.
Mr. Edwards.
Yes.
Mr. Palomo.
Yes.
Mrs. Grant.
Yes.
Dr. Smith.
Oh, yes.
Mrs. Smith.
Yes. We now have the approval of the minutes that Mike had forwarded to us. Those included the regular board meeting back in February 19th in 2020, and our special board meeting on February 26th. Could I have a motion to approve those minutes as presented?
I move to approve them.
Israel and Kent. Were there any corrections or additions that needed to be made? Hearing none, we'll have the roll, please.
Mr. Palomo.
Yes.
Mr. Edwards.
Yes.
Dr. Smith.
Yes.
Mrs. Grant.
Yeah.
Mrs. Smith.
Yes. At this point in time, we typically have a portion that we refer to as public participation. And I apologize that the special circumstances for a virtual meeting tonight altered that opportunity for public participation in real time. However, we do appreciate the 14 staff members and other members of the community who have already participated, and welcome others by communicating questions and expressing concern to the board via email. The board will address each concern, and for all the mighty efforts of our staff members, the board certainly thanks you. We'll move on now to the sponsors report, please.
Yes, Jim. I will tell you that we did get together this month, and that was actually this morning via conference call with Mike and Jeff, and then myself and Denny and Diane from the sponsorship side. And we were able to go through the agenda that I believe you guys had received. I sent out yesterday at 3, and Jeff either sent out to last night or today to you guys. I do want to talk just briefly on the scenario of the monthly financial report in March. And we did get that done thanks to Mike and Diane. Great job, guys. So we have that I believe is in your board packets for last month. Also, there are a few items that are either coming due or their deadlines have changed, which we discussed in point number 3 on the agenda today. The 5-year forecast stays a May 31st deadline, and we had a little conversation about that today. So you might see it as May 15th deadline, but it is actually a May 31st deadline.
Okay.
Also, the 2019-2020 quality review and compliance review, which were due on May 15th for quality and June 30th for compliance, are both now pushed back until July 15th as the deadline. I currently am working with TCS, in particular Steve Ladd and Rose Ladd, for the compliance review, and I have been working on the quality review as well. So all that is moving forward towards the upload submission in July. And then we had discussion of the following items: second site visit, compliance worksheet update, which is what Steve and Rose have communicated with me about today even, so that's great. The anticipated enrollment and staffing for TCS for next year, the transportation thought process for next year, and then the ODE status on an agreement with TCS. So those were all items that were discussed today, trying to kind of update MLSD on the most recent happenings with Townsend. And we have set our next meeting date for, and this is a change from the agenda, May 20th. That would be Wednesday, May 20th at 9:30 a.m. And we will again do that via a conference call as well. Any questions?
Yeah, are there any questions for Steve? Steve, by moving that July 15th deadline back, does that really make any difference in terms of the information that has to be produced?
No, not really. In fact, I told TCS today, instead of receiving data numbers in May like we would, such as enrollment and at-risk students, special education students, and so forth, we will just gather that information in June, and I will submit in July. So really, there is no change other than I'll grab that data a little bit later than what I normally would. But other than that, pretty much everything will stay the same as far as what I know at this time. Keep in mind, this is year number 1 for me doing this, but I think things have gone pretty smoothly, and I'm really working through the quality practices review. So I feel like things are going well up to this point, but I'll certainly know more later. And I will also tell everybody that they still want to have the evaluations and hopefully an effective rating done by mid-November like they have in the past. So they have pushed the deadline back to the middle of July, and then the people that take a look at and review all the information believes they can still have it done in the necessary time frame for that mid-November basically report card for us.
All right, very good. Any other questions? Well, thank you, Steve, for that report. We appreciate that, and I'm glad you're getting good cooperation, as would be expected from Steve and Rose as well. We are getting bombarded with legislative reports on an ongoing basis as board members, so I have nothing to report on that. In terms of the president's report, I'm going to be contacting each of the board members to determine what information we really want to have included in our packets, and kind of reassess that so that as Jeff and Mike are sending things out to us, we're getting things that we really need, and exclude those things that we don't need. So I'll be contacting you about that. Let's move on to your report, Jeff.
Sure. I've got a few reports here. I'll just touch on them. As said under school update, it's no secret the coronavirus and COVID-19 have dominated our news media. TSC is no exception. Once the announcement came from Governor DeWine to close schools, several decisions had to be made. One of those decisions was to close the TSC building, except for having one administrator in the building each day, Monday through Friday. Several days have since passed, and we understand there's a need for staff to have access to the building. With this in mind, we'll be sending out communication this week that contains the process whereby staff members who actually need in the building can schedule a date and time for this. So staff members, if you're listening and that's one of the issues you brought forth tonight, please know that that's coming. We've talked about this and we're prepared to move forward with this. The next item that I have is the enrollment update. Board of Directors, you were given the current enrollment data. That's as of April 18th. To summarize, the current enrollment stands at 1,461 students. This is a decrease of 35 students. This decrease can largely be attributed to closing our enrollment during the early part of school closure, that closure that was ordered by Governor DeWine. We have since reopened our enrollment and hope to see our enrollment increase. And I know in talking with administrators, our enrollment is climbing back up. We're still slowly. On the third item, the OD update, there have been some questions and concerns in regards to our interaction with the Ohio Department of Education. I can kind of summarize so everybody's on the same page that we're all on. There was a proposal that was given to ODE that reduced our current footprint to a 6-county area and having a payback to ODE as a result of FTE review of 4.5%. Now, ODE countered this with a payback of 10%. Townsend, TSC then offered to agree to a 5% payback. This offer was done in late January. Since my arrival in early March, we have offered to meet with ODE to further discuss this offer in an attempt to bring about a resolution and thus be able to move forward with plans for next year. We realize ODE has their hands full with coronavirus, COVID-19, and everything that has happened as a result of the current pandemic. However, please know that TSC will continue to attempt to cause for a resolution to be reached that will allow for future planning. Until then, we move forward as status quo with no planned changes. We certainly acknowledge questions from our staff, and we are addressing them as we can. But please understand, some questions cannot be answered tonight. We're, in essence, waiting for a response from ODE. We do look for, regardless of what happens on the footprint, we are looking forward to using our blended learning model next year. And that I can say with a fairly level of certainty. But again, I know staff. I was a teacher for 15 years. I understand that a lot of people will know what's going on for next year. And unfortunately, we're coming up on a wait and see approach. But we are attempting every week. Every week, we attempt to reach out to ODE. They are aware of our situation, and we are still hopeful that we'll bring forth a resolution, and then we can plan accordingly. As soon as we have that, we'll let you know. So we apologize. We know the stress and the inconvenience that this is causing, and we certainly acknowledge that. But that's the best we can do at this point in time. That's my that's the superintendent's report for this evening, Madam President.
Okay, very good. And Adam, I know that you're there. You didn't have any updates today, did you?
Nothing new. No.
Okay.
We continue to reach out, and I think all communications have been positive without being productive. So that's kind of where we're stuck right now. But I do have the sense of optimism that something can be reached here, hopefully in short order, because we want everybody to have some certainty on this.
Okay, thank you. Mike, could we move on to the treasurer's report, please?
Yeah. So I have sent out to you, unlike most months, we have a February and March report to go through. I'm going to skim through the February report And please feel free to stop me at any point if you have any questions. End of February, real quick, we ended the month with reconciliation, cash reconciliation of $1,569,000. Hopefully you've had a chance to review the check register and outstanding checks. I don't believe there was anything too out of the ordinary for the month of February. Moving on to the spreadsheet I have for you guys. The FT, I did have one error on my report. I had total FT at 1109.68. I must have forgot to save it or something. It's actually in the month of February, it was 1080.26.
Okay.
So just so I have that correct for you guys. Another thing to realize that in the month of February, we're 2/3 of the way through the school year, so most of the time, we're looking for expenses and revenue to be around 67%, which as far as expenses go, we're right in that area. Revenue is a little lower than anticipated at that point in the month of February. That's kind of my quick synopsis of February. Does anybody have any questions on February before I move to March?
None here.
Okay. March total reconciliation is $1,572,000. Hopefully, you guys also had a chance to go through the check register. The only thing I wanted to point out, we did pay the attendance officer for Central Ohio. That's through the Madison Champaign ESC. The hourly billing for them. I do anticipate that to be lower the second half of the year as we are operating on there in the same aspect. We did move postage, as I told you in the past. We have the postage meter and postage through us now, not through Margaretta. So the quarterly billing for that, as well as $3,000 in postage, was posted on that check register. Any questions on the March check register or outstanding check?
Mike, could you just explain to the other board members how about the nurses the payment for nurse and for Benny to the sheriff?
Yeah, so it's
department?
typically with the nurse and the sheriff, their billing is 1 to 2 months behind, we find. So we did pay that in March. If you go through the check register, you'll see that in there. We won't be billed for them for the remainder of the year as we're not open. They're an hourly rate. So we should see those disappear. But the reason it's in the March payment is because it's for prior months. I believe we're caught up through March. But if there's something that happens to come through in April, it'll be on the register and I'll remind you and pay you. But we should be good there.
Very good.
You go to the spreadsheet. Wanted to point out that FTEs went back up to 1109.68, which is up 29.42 FTEs for the month of March. At the month of March, we're 3/4 of the way through the school year, so we're looking for the expenses and the revenue to be around 75%. Same thing as in February. Expenses are right there at 75%, 74.88, and revenues down a little bit. But that's how it goes. March was about a month for us. Any questions on that before I go to the April payment that I included in the packet?
I just wondered under your summary of the general fund,
Yeah.
why do we have so much in career tech funding?
We're actually getting more career tech funding than anticipated at the beginning of the year. Remember, this budget was set back in July. July, and we're getting more career tech funding. You remember when we had that delay in payment in December, where there was reporting? Well, we got it back. We're actually getting more career tech funding than we had anticipated at the beginning of the year. So on top of the catch up, so whenever they caught us up in January, that catch up, as well as there's just more people in career tech than anticipated. So we are getting more career tech funding than originally. Actually, if you look over year to date, you can see that it's up significantly as far as that goes.
Yeah. Okay. That's my only question.
Okay. April payment details on there as well. April payment, it looks like we dropped back down as far as FTE goes to 1,090.98, which is down 8.7. As Jeff had said before, we had that pause in enrollment for a period of time, as well as graduates that are being removed from the system. As you guys know, as a student graduates, we don't hold on to them for the remainder of the year. We let them graduate at that time. So we are actually, for the month of April, down 2.7 FTEs as far as that goes. But that's pretty much all I have for you guys, unless you have questions.
Any questions out there? All right, hearing none, is there a motion to approve the treasurer's report, please?
So moved. So moved. Second.
Okay. We'll have the roll, please.
Mr. Palomo,
Yes.
Mr. Edwards,
Yes.
Mrs. Grant,
Yes.
Dr. Smith,
Yes.
Mrs. Smith.
Yes. All right, we'll move on to the action items that we have listed here. The first one being the recommendations to approve the awarding of high school diplomas. Would you want to run through these, Joe?
Your action item today, as President Smith had a recommendation to approve the award of diplomas to the following students, and those names are listed. Item B, recommendation to approve the following policies. Again, the policies are listed for you. Item C, recommendation to approve resignation of Marty Pitcher. Marty was pretty involved with our EMIS, and she has submitted a resignation, and just even my short time here, really good person to be around. Item D, recommendation to approve the following board policies. We sent those out to you earlier. Again, there are no changes to board policies. This is, I don't want to call it a formality, but we review them every year, and then we have to say they're reviewed, and that's what we're doing, and that the board's approved them. So you have a list of those policies, but I just want to let you know there are no changes to those policies. Item E, recommendation to approve a 12-month internet contract with NOECA. You should have received that contract. What I'm going to do is turn this item over to our treasurer, Mike. Mike has got some financial data that he's going to share with you that kind of guides us in part of our decision making. We're currently getting internet services through Buckeye, telecommunications, telesystems, something like that. And we've found that we can go back to NOECA. We used to be with NOECA, and we can go back to NOECA and save some money. What's interesting is NOECA, their internet bridge is through Buckeye Telesystem. But again, NOECA, there's some funding that we can get through NOECA that we can't get through Buckeye. So that all kind of played into that. So with that, Mike, if you want to run through the numbers real quick.
Yeah, so currently we're gonna have the same internet service. Everything's gonna be the same. I did talk to NOECA. They normally do a 5-year contract. I talked to Lori Hill from NOECA, and she was able to talk. We're gonna do just a 12-month contract for now. So originally I had sent you out a 5-year contract, and I talked to them, and they sent a 12-month contract for the exact same price. So for a fifth of the price, I should say. So everything's the same. Now, what I wanted to say was I'm partnering with an ITC. The difference here is that we are going to get the Ohio Department of Education has an $1,800 allowance that they allow per building, which is only one building, for your E-rate funding. So essentially, what we're going to save here over the course of this next year with NOECA is $1,306.80. It's not a significant amount of money, but it is money, and this is just a 12-month contract. They're gonna handle our E-rate and everything for us. So that's kind of what we're looking at with this. Nothing's gonna change really. It's just who's providing it for us.
And just to clarify, Mike, originally the information you sent to us implied that those figures were on a monthly basis, but they're actually annual quotes, right?
That's an annual quote.
Okay. Very good. Are there any questions about that at all, or any comments about that kind of move? I know that other points have been under discussion with NOECA, and as those kinds of decision making is necessary, then we'll make you more aware of that. But Jeff, do you have anything to add to that?
No, what was interesting, we tried to get apples comparison. We priced out the contracts. Buckeye telesystems. Currently, we have a 100 megabyte bandwidth. There's also an additional 10 megabyte bandwidth through Buckeye Telesystems that will be dropping on top of the financial data we gave you. Actually, an additional cost we're currently paying of a little 4,000. So that savings will be rolled into this. In addition to what Mike said, the other thing is there's some other vendors that we utilize to do things for us when we're pulling our internet from Buckeye Telesystems that NWECA has built in. Well, those other vendors we're paying for that service, so those costs are not substantial, but they're still costs that we'll no longer have to be paying. So the cost factors that Mike gave you are conservative. We're pretty certain that the true savings will be a little higher. And again, don't sound like a lot until you look at it over a 5 or even 10-year period, and the money starts to add up. So with that, President Smith, those are the 5 recommendations I'll have before you and ask, unless there's further questions, discussions, that we seek a motion to approve.
Of course. Is there a motion to approve the action items A through E as presented?
I move.
Okay, Dora moved. Is there a second, please?
I'll second it.
Okay, Bob. Are there any other discussions or questions, rather, or discussion? Hearing none, we'll have the roll, please, Mike.
Mrs. Grant,
Yes.
Dr. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Palomo,
Yes.
Mr. Edwards,
Abstain.
Mrs. Smith.
Yes. Motion carried. At this point in time, I'm going to ask that we move into executive session to consider I need a motion to consider the employment and compensation of a public employee and to confer with the attorney for the public body concerning disputes involving the public body that are the subject of pending or imminent court action. Is there a motion to that effect?
I move.
Moved
Second.
by Dora. Second? All in favor? Or we'll have a roll call, rather.
Mrs. Grant,
Yeah.
Mr. Edwards,
Yes.
Mr. Palomo,
Yes.
Dr. Smith,
Yes.
Mrs. Smith.
Yes. And just for the folks that are on Townsend TV, we're going to drop out of the TV for now and then have our executive session. We'll rejoin Townsend TV with no action having been taken, and we'll adjourn at that point in time. All right. Thank you very much and have a good evening, everyone.
All of the board members should, and all the invitees should have an email in your inbox.